In the 5th year of liking Wendy, she brought a young guy home on my birthday. She held his hand confidently and laughed. "Aren't you tired of it? Look at someone else." She raised her eyebrows and casually pointed to the slender girl pretending to nap on the couch in the dark. "How about Ruby? Maybe you could give it a shot." I gave a slight smile and said, "Sure." Later on, she was knocking on the door where Ruby and I were, her eyes red and her teeth clenched, saying, "Let Brian out." "Woken up?" I asked from the doorway. "Ruby? Who's here?" Ruby leaned against the door, the marks on her collarbone annoyingly prominent. She lazily smiled and replied, "Just the delivery guy." "What's up with Wendy? Isn't she here yet?" Gloria shouted from inside the suite. Someone responded, "She went to pick someone up. They're on the way." Who could it be that she has to pick them up personally? Hearing this, I paused with my phone in hand, the screen still on the message I sent Wendy. "Wendy, are you almost here?" It had been an hour since I sent that, with no reply. I glanced around the room. I knew all her friends, and most of them were already here. So, who was she picking up? I felt a bit confused and uneasy. In the next moment, the door opened. I turned my head, and the sight stung my eyes. Wendy, usually so cold, wore a gentle smile and was closely huddled with that man. The guy in the light white shirt had Wendy's jacket draped over her shoulder, leaning quietly into him. The room quieted down, and many eyes lingered on me. I blinked away the sting in my eyes, trying to decipher the subtle changes in Wendy's expression. I sadly realized that her usually cold eyes now had a soft glow. Even the slight curve of her eyes was larger than before. It seemed like she genuinely liked this young guy. The young man in the white shirt stuck out his tongue awkwardly. "Sorry we took a bit longer. Blame it on Wendy wanting to stay in the car." "You must be Wendy's brother," he continued. "She said it's her brother's birthday, and she wanted to introduce us." "I'm called," he started, but Wendy cut him off, affectionately ruffling his hair. Then turning to me, "Brian, call him brother-in-law." I looked at her through the backlit glow, her features delicate, nose well-formed, with those attractive, sparkling eyes. I met her when I was 16, fell for her at 18. Over the years, she admired mountains, rivers, and blossoming flowers, but never once turned her gaze towards me. She'd kiss me while drunk, yet soberly tell me she mistook me for someone else. She'd say, "Brian, as long as I'm here, no one will dare bully you." I imagined she might hate me, never loving me, but I didn't think it'd happen today. After all these years of entwined feelings, I'm more exhausted than anyone, more eager to let go. Today was supposed to be my last chance for myself, but I didn't expect she wanted to sever this tie even more than I did. I took a deep breath and smiled. "Hi, I'm Brian." In the dim light, perhaps it was my illusion, Wendy's face turned slightly sour before she smiled. "Brian, I hope it's not another one of your tricks." I knew she was talking about a year ago when I pretended to agree to a blind date, only to bail halfway. I thrust the knife into the 3-tier cake, calmly saying, "You're overthinking it." Still skeptical, she smirked, "Maybe you should look at other girls." Suddenly raising her hand, she pointed to the girl in the corner. "I think Ruby isn't bad. Give it a try." The girl she pointed at wore a black top, arms crossed, lounging on the couch, with a black bucket hat hiding half her face, exuding an unapproachable vibe. She was the youngest daughter of the Lin Group, Ruby, a top-tier racing driver. She didn't seem that close with Wendy, not much socializing between them, but oddly enough, she showed up tonight. Everyone was aware that I held no real weight with Wendy. But now wasn't the time for extra pondering. Wendy had blocked my path to dismiss me. I stood up, glanced at Wendy, then walked towards Ruby with determination. I shook her awake, and as she lifted her hat, her sleepy eyes still a bit dazed, she looked at me. Her tone was familiar. What's up?" But we weren't familiar. I hadn't spoken much to her over the years, let alone exchanged contact info. Staring at her white and delicate face, I felt a bit embarrassed. I mustered my courage, handing her a business card, pretending to ask calmly, "If you ever need mechanical arms, you can contact our company." My voice was so quiet that only she could hear. To Wendy and the others, I seemed to be handing Ruby a card, extending an invitation. Ruby awakened completely, tousled her silky hair, and chuckled lightly. Her fingers slightly pinched the card. Whether it was deliberate or not, she made sure her voice was audible with a playful tone. "All right, I'll contact you then." I turned calmly, walked to the cake, symbolically took a spoonful, and simply told everyone to enjoy before leaving without looking back. Passing by Wendy, she wore no hint of the joyous expression I expected. Instead, she looked grim. She tugged on the arm of the white-shirt man beside her, ignoring his repeated cries of pain. As I walked past her, quietly I thought to myself, "Goodbye, Wendy." After I left, chatter erupted among them. "Wendy, aren't you afraid that Brian will truly leave you?" "No way, you know how much he loves Wendy. He probably just got angry. He'll come back obediently in a couple of days." True, Wendy often messed around these years, and he was always at her beck and call. "But Wendy, Brian's so handsome, and has been so devoted to you. How come you never fell for him?" Wendy sipped her drink and said indifferently, "What, do you like him?" That person scratched their head, muttering, "He doesn't like me." Then someone teasingly asked Ruby, "By the way, Ruby doesn't like Brian's type. His plan to use you to provoke Wendy might fail." Ruby's gaze was still on the card. Hearing this, she lifted her fox-like eyes, playing with the card, chuckling. "How do you know I'm not interested?" As soon as the words were spoken, the room went silent. Wendy instinctively tightened her grip on her wine glass and turned to look at her. Their eyes met in the air, one pair slightly angry, the other smirking with a teasing confidence. After a long pause, Ruby propped her chin up and said, "Don't mind, I was just joking." Wendy shrugged and smiled indifferently. "If you like him, go ahead. Maybe I'll even chip in for your gift money." Offhandedly, she added, "But you might be disappointed. Brian is stubborn. Once he's set on someone, it's for life. It'd be hard to win him over." She swirled her wine. "Especially since he's never liked people who race." The message was clear. Wendy was letting Ruby know, smugly and confidently, that Brian would only ever have eyes for her. Ruby narrowed her gaze at Wendy, showing no emotion, just a slight curl of her lips. But that smile was glaring to Wendy, although she couldn't care less. In a few days, Brian would be at her door with homemade soup. After all these years, she knew Brian well enough. Wendy's current boyfriend was a new star, Evan, and everyone said she was serious about him this time. Wendy even had her top agent personally manage him and used hundreds of drones just to make him smile. I looked at my phone, awestruck by the drones spelling out Evan's name and forming his joyful face, capturing hearts online. Scrolling through countless comments, I smirked. Then, I landed on Evan's social media. A picture of him with a caption, "Loved so well by someone." There was a luxury watch on his wrist. I remember when Wendy asked me what I wanted for my birthday. We had walked by a jewelry store, and I noticed that watch prominently displayed in the window. Wendy had casually asked, "Like it?" Now it was someone else's gift. That cut deep for a second until someone knocked at my office door. "Brian, the partners have questions about the product data. The marketing team needs you to take a look," Mark informed me. I nodded, put my emotions aside, and jumped right into work. In the meeting room, I was startled upon seeing the girl in a sharp business outfit, her fitted pencil skirt accentuating her curves. She was starkly different from her laid-back vibe at the other night. I fidgeted with my notebook, a bit uneasy. Ruby actually here to buy robotic arms? What would a racer need those for? She spun in her chair, effortlessly friendly. "Forgot about me so soon." "Brian?" Mark, eyes wide with gossip, reminded me of an old turtle. "Wow, Linda knows our Brian?" Ruby shot him a look, shutting down his curiosity. "He pitched your products to me." I nervously asked, "Ms. Ruby, which data are you concerned about?" Mark, a seasoned businessman, quickly got up. "Brian, explain it well to Ms. Ruby. If it gets late, take her out for dinner and show her a good time." Left alone with Ruby, she suddenly said, "I can quit racing." "What?" I looked up, confused. Though not an expert, I'd read that Ruby was hailed internationally as Asia's top F1 racer. a rare talent. It's nothing, she dismissed, pointing randomly. These figures differ from typical market data. Why? Leaning in, a pleasant orchid aroma wafted over. I carefully explained using a design schematic. Turns out it's simple. Our core technology involved compact, innovative improvements. I could wrap it up in 10 minutes. But Ruby asked so many questions that it dragged on till noon. When the clock chimed, it seemed like she took a deep breath before casually mentioning it was lunchtime. I was grateful for her coming along that night, so still holding my laptop, I joked, "How about I treat you to lunch?" During lunch, many people snuck glances at Ruby. She was beautiful, and as a top racer, already a frequent face in commercials. She had just returned from a foreign competition, seemingly tired, barely touching her food. Ruby poked around her plate. "I heard Mike got you 8 female models." I nearly choked on that, my face burning red. When I broke it off with Wendy, Mike was so relieved he celebrated precipitously and had 8 models sent to my place. Opening the door, I was met with those elegant women, all types, lining up, declaring they weren't to leave till morning unless I'd pay their fee. Ruby muttered mockingly, "Quite the stamina you've got." Quickly waved it off. No, nothing happened. She smiled faintly and casually unbuttoned her shirt, revealing her pale neck and collarbone. "Brian." She tapped the table with 2 fingers. "Weren't you thinking of trying me out? I'm cleaner than them." A sudden explosion in my mind. I stared at her in disbelief, spoon with cream hanging from my lips forgotten. I just exited one turbulent relationship. No way I'd jump right into another. And this situation wasn't fair to Ruby, no matter how I put it. I couldn't use someone's feelings to distract from another's. I thought for a moment, then whispered, "Rabbits don't eat the grass around their burrow." Ruby raised an eyebrow, her sly fox-like eyes glinting. "I will, as long as it's you. I'll eat any grass." "You might have got it wrong," I said, trying to hide a smile and keep a straight face. "When I said, the grass around the burrow, I meant you. Wendy really is unlucky." She tilted her head, remembering something. "The business card you gave me, is that your work number?" I nodded. The card had my work number on it, a number I used only for work. "Can't I have your personal number?" she asked, her lips pressing together. After a pause, she looked a bit sad. "It's okay if I can't." "No worries." The beautiful young woman lowered her eyes, and a teardrop-sized mole looked like it might shatter. Something possessed me to take out another phone. I told Mike about Ruby, and he rushed over, worried. "Brian, don't be a fool. Ruby's with Wendy and her crowd. Who knows what kind of bets they're making behind your back. Maybe they're setting you up just to laugh at you later." "I know Wendy too well." I nodded like a pecking chicken. I know, I won't act recklessly." "But," Mike suddenly grimaced, his face twisting into a strange smile. "Let her fish or whatever, but make sure you sleep with her first. Ruby's got looks, money, and a body. She's worth it." "Mike," I called out, exasperated. Right then, my phone on the table rang. It was Wendy. "Brian," she drawled lazily, her voice coming through the receiver. "Do I have to coax you? You won't even answer the phone." Just as Mike was about to lash out, I motioned for him to stop and calmly said, "Wendy, aren't you the one who told me not to like you anymore? If there's nothing important, don't call. Your boyfriend wouldn't like it." Wendy was silent for a moment, then let out a snort. "Fine, let's see who you end up liking, Brian." The call ended abruptly, and I gripped the phone tightly. Mike once said I was Wendy's puppet, summoned and dismissed at will. He harshly suggested that I wasn't even a backup plan, that Wendy wouldn't look at me even during a dry spell. Only I knew why Wendy was so certain I'd never leave her. Those who've walked through darkness reluctantly let go of light, even if it no longer shines for them. At 16, my life fell from happiness to dust. An unexpected accident at the factory took my loving parents, leaving me an unwanted orphan. A white cloth covered 2 charred bodies. Policemen shielded my eyes. "Don't look. Just say goodbye to your mom and dad." That incident caught a journalist's attention, who penned a long piece exposing the lies about the accident, which the Booths claimed was due to my parents' error. To calm the public, Mr. and Mrs. Booth begged to adopt me. then had their charitable act broadcasted widely. Their stock prices soared. Clad in the cheapest, most worn-out clothes, I entered the Booth's mansion, living in the maid's quarters for 7 years. They'd toss me decent clothing for appearances whenever reputation needed boosting, and I'd smile for the cameras. Like when my stellar exam scores got me into a university, they'd shamelessly grin for the lens, accepting praise for raising such a good student. We owe it to Mr. G. Yeah, 4 years we've been attentive to Brian's life and studies. We never miss a parent-teacher meeting. In truth, after sending me to that high school, they left me to fend for myself. Yet in that circle, news spread fast. Who knew he could be so cunning? They say he's not too bright. I was just shell-shocked, suffering from PTSD, my reactions dull for a year. But they labeled me, "Here comes the fool again." You can't judge a book by its cover. A rich kid accused me of leeching off wealth soon after my parents' death. If I were your parent, I'd rise from the grave. You didn't even let their bodies cool before claiming others as your family. I looked up with dark eyes, quietly protesting. It's not like that. The Booths adopted me, but that explanation only fueled their disdain, like poverty was my greatest crime. Only later did I understand that my existence disrupted their cherished sense of hierarchy. Someone from the lower rungs shouldn't stand among them. Brian, what's with your arrogance? Why don't you bow? Bully behavior isn't just one person's doing. Nobody wants to be singled out. But with one instigator, everyone blindly follows, escaping blame while they're primitive. Extreme emotions surface. A red-headed guy flicked a lit cigarette into my collar, shrugging. Sorry, it slipped. A boy in shorts locked me in the bathroom, then reported my absence to a teacher. A round-faced, friendly-looking guy handed me a box of cookies, hiding thumbtacks inside. They laughed as blood trickled from my mouth. I turned to teachers for help, but they were helpless. A teacher who once stood up for a bullied student had 2 ribs broken. The young, newly graduated female teacher couldn't meet my eyes. Brian, if you're hurt, come to the office. I'll get you some ointment. I told the Booths, but they only looked on coldly. If you leave others alone, why would anyone pick on you? Don't make trouble for us. Silently, I lowered my head and returned to the darkness. Wendy appeared then, like a goddess lifting me from despair. Her family owned the largest share of a city high, making her untouchable. 16, she had long ash-gray hair, wearing a pure white uniform with rebellious flair. One day, after being shoved into a pool, she kicked away a bully with ease, brightening the shadows over my life. What's with this fat dog? Was your mom planning to birth a beast? Get lost. I wiped the murky water from my face, looking up at her against the light. She seemed to glow, haloed in sunlight streaming through carved windows. Are you okay? I shook my head, wiping my face, grabbing the milk tossed to the ground. Thanks, I murmured, clutching the milk tightly. I remembered they said people like me were dirty, scared of catching germs by eating with me. The girl stood with her hands in her pockets, bending slightly. What's your name? Brian. Which class? Freshman, class 5. At that time, I was wondering if my parents had seen I was being bullied and sent someone to protect me. No one would have thought that Wendy would become my guardian angel during those dark teenage years. I sat upright at my desk, fully focused on solving problems, while the teasing continued endlessly beside me. Just when I had gotten used to it, Wendy grabbed a stick from who knows where and fiercely struck the hand, leaving it raw and bruised. Then she glanced back at me casually. What are you staring at? Get on with your writing. Later, she fearlessly declared, Brian, if he hits you, hit him back. If you kill him, I'll take the blame. I held the stick she gave me, shaking my head repeatedly. She scoffed, coward. When they bully you, they think the same. If you kill him, worst case, it's just a payout. Who doesn't have some cash? I can't, I said, no longer speaking slowly, serious. We can't fight violence with violence. We can call the cops. She raised her eyebrows. You might as well beg me. I'm more useful than the police. I walked with big steps behind her, one step at a time. The summer wind rustled through the leaves, the tree shadows falling obliquely. Her shadow fell on me, and my shadow fell behind. She often told me, "Focus on studying, keep reading your books," because nobody pulled on my collar or used my notebooks to clean the floor anymore. She went to the booths, sat boldly, no respect. "Mr. Johnny, if you can't raise a son, just say so. I'll help." 17-year-old Wendy returned her silver-dyed hair back to black, with sharp and expressive features. Later, those bullies were exposed one by the media. Nobody dared to suppress the news, and their parents ended up at Wendy's house. Wendy raised her chin toward me, clutching my backpack straps. "Make those brats kneel and apologize properly to him, then I'll consider it." Gradually, I straightened my hunched back, lifted my always lowered head, and walked through the school with my eyes forward. Those classmates previously warned against talking to me began openly smiling and greeting me. My life was no longer in the mud. I lived like a normal person. I could laugh, get angry. The sleeping pills, knife, and rope I had hidden away never appeared again. The year I turned 18, Wendy took me to see the fireworks. "I like you." Nervously, I tugged on her sleeve. "Wendy." No one knew how long it took me to practice those words. She turned to look at me, momentarily surprised, before pulling out her phone to record. "Say it again." Though confused, I stammered and blushed, repeating it. She didn't say good or bad. She just ruffled my hair. "All right, I got it." Feeling a bit lost, I lowered my head and never brought it up again. That confession lingered between us for 5 whole years. It was like I handed her a knife to wound me with, becoming her support to act rampant, with no fear. It's as if my confession unleashed her dark desires. Throughout those years, she had boyfriends like a revolving door. Vibrant, sweet, domineering. But without exception, none stayed for more than 2 weeks. Sometimes her boyfriends would come to me, crying like the sky was falling. Wendy, on the other hand, remained cold and indifferent, smiling gently, though her tone was icy. Did I ever say stop appearing in front of me? Let's end things on good terms, don't you get it? I sometimes wondered, if at 18 I hadn't confessed, would Wendy have turned out like this? Supporting my head, memories pricked like thorns, tears steadily falling on the desk. Initially, I wanted to ask her why she saved me but later discarded me like a rag. But eventually, those questions lost their meaning. My phone lit up, a message popped up. "There's a party on the 7th at 8 p.m. I sent the clothes over. "Be on time, Wendy." She was always like this, hurting me recklessly, then casually asking for my time. She always believed I couldn't live without her. I deleted the message, then went on and blocked all her contacts. "Wendy, the kindness of youth I repaid with years of friendship. It's you who didn't want it. Since you didn't want my love, I'll take it all back." Ruby's approach was as bold as she was, invading my life in a few days. Heard she got lost at 7, found again by the wives at 13, so they're making up for it lavishly. Like the project originally with her big sister's company. Ruby asked, and without a word, it was hers. Backed by family wealth and a reputation from a young age, Wendy described her as talented but arrogant, with a terrible temper and many demands. I stared at her profile picture, bewildered at what she wanted. I couldn't believe she suddenly liked me. We've known each other for years. If she liked me, it wouldn't be just now. All these years, insecurity and sensitivity consumed me. My love for Wendy took all my courage. So much so, that I felt unworthy of love, let alone from someone so dazzling. "Brian." Mike was frustrated. "You're more than worthy. You deserve Ruby 8 times over. These years, it's Wendy's fault. All strings pulled. Knowing your feelings but dragging you along. Controlling you. I mean, did you commit some major crime she caught you for, to listen to her like this?" I widened my eyes, shaking my head. "No, I'd never do something like that." Mike rolled his eyes toward the ceiling. "He's been my only good friend over the years. The only one who doesn't mind that I sometimes think slower than others. Mike, I won't like Wendy anymore. I promise I won't listen to her either. I'll trust you this one last time." He tapped my forehead and reminded me, whether there's love or not doesn't stop you from having fun, especially with someone like Ruby. Go for it. Ruby's got this private racetrack in the west suburbs, spanning almost 80,000 square meters. It's where she trains since coming back home, and she keeps a top-notch racing team there for daily practice. Brian, today's prize is a top-quality diamond. It's not worth much. You should win it so you can mess around with it, cool. To her, the diamond isn't worth much, but in the market it would be tens of thousands. Ruby was in a red and white racing suit with a black helmet tucked under her arm, leaning lazily against the railing. She's tall, with long legs, and her black hair is neat and sleek. I turned to look at her, squinting in the sunlight, and said seriously, I don't want it. When you take something from someone, you owe them. Ruby looked down at my serious side profile and chuckled softly. Her every move was just right, not too aggressive and never awkward. Yet she's not naturally gentle. She's wild, unrestrained, and openly bold. When the race started, Ruby sat in the car, her face hidden under a black helmet. Her dark eyes locked onto me sitting in the stands. She smiled silently. Wait for me. The tires screeched, and the dazzling blue car roared off, like a swift arrow. The big screen in the center of the venue tracked each car, with cameras in the cars providing real-time feeds of the drivers. Ruby looked calm as she braked and turned efficiently, showing no panic. At the curve, the steering wheel spun hard, and the high-grip tires screeched loudly. The spoilers scraped the guardrail, sparking brilliantly, a perfect drift. As the thrilled crowd cheered, Ruby ran over to me, slightly breathless. Her fox-like eyes curled at the corners when she smiled, and that tiny teardrop mole lifted too. She casually measured the diamond against my hand, seriously finding the right spot. Looking into her eyes, all I saw was me. I blinked. Her intertwined breath seemed to fill my chest, making my heart race. Brian. Stunned? What's my name? She laughed. What a tease. I pursed my lips and slowly broke into a grin. A black Bugatti parked by the roadside, the empty, quiet road wrapped in a dark, damp atmosphere around me. Breathe, don't hold it in. Ruby moved away from my lips, her soft lips shiny, and she amusingly used her fingers to wipe mine. Just as she finished talking, Ruby leaned in for another kiss. Every kiss came with a gentle nibble. Her kisses moved to my collarbone, licking and tearing. My chest beat wildly, as if it wanted to challenge her commanding kiss. Ruby. My voice was a soft mutter between our lips. Take it slow. The sultry, intoxicating voice made my scalp tingle. She buried her head in my neck, her voice luring like a siren. Use me then, whether it's revenge or for tension relief. She tempted. I'm willing, no strings attached. In the darkness, she was like a fallen angel, luring me step by step. In my days, I only remember, at the end, she had me leave a deep mark on that pale, firm collarbone. Wendy, what are you up to? Hurry up already. The birthday girl shouted at Wendy on the balcony. Frank leaned over to glance at Wendy's phone and blurted out, Did Brian block you? Wendy shot him a cold glance, turned off the phone, and said flatly, I've spoiled him these past years. Frank hissed and gave her a fair warning, you better be careful. He might be serious this time, don't come crying later. Wendy looked at the distant lights, squinting slightly, fingers twirling her phone confidently. Frank, he can't forget me. He'll never forget me in this life. Who can forget the light that saves them? Frank met Wendy later on, so he didn't know much about their past. He motioned inside with his chin, speaking low. Ruby came tonight too. Can't believe she showed for Nina's birthday. Wendy and Ruby weren't exactly close. Their worlds barely overlapped. Ruby's sudden friendly gesture 3 years ago even surprised Wendy. After the excitement, a group gathered to play cards. Nina noticed the mark on Ruby's neck. Pointing at it, she excitedly asked, Ruby, got a boyfriend? For a moment, the card table froze, and everyone looked at her simultaneously. Wendy, fiddling with her phone by the couch, paused and lifted her gaze too. After a while, Ruby nonchalantly touched the spot, replying, No. People thought she'd say it was an injury. Ruby smoothly added, still pursuing. Once it's official, I'll bring him to meet you all. She tossed a card onto the table, reigniting the room's energy. Everyone cheered her on. Of course, you'll make it. Who could resist Ruby's charm? I'm waiting to see which young master managed to enchant our Ruby. Wendy, you're impressive. Brian and Ruby really don't stand a chance. Ruby lowered her head and quietly looked at Wendy. Their eyes met, and Ruby gave a distant smile. She wasn't ready for Wendy to find out just yet. Brian hadn't fully opened up to her, and she felt insecure about keeping him. Plus, being the newcomer, their long history weighed heavily, making her feel like she was playing catch-up. Besides, she worried that if Wendy found out someone cared for Brian, she might not let go so easily and come back to complicate things. 6 by then, she felt even less sure if Brian would ditch her for Wendy. And Wendy, staring hard at the mark on Ruby's collarbone, found it especially glaring. After a while, she looked away, trusting her gut that it was wrong. Brian was well behaved. He wouldn't do such a thing. That day, the Booths called me up. What on earth are you doing out there? Why have all our deals with Wendy stopped? Are you useless? You can't even keep Wendy. Now go apologize to Wendy immediately. How dare you defy her? I replied coldly, aren't the Booths satisfied after benefiting for so many years? Don't forget, I have no relationship with you guys, and I'm not obliged to work for you. If Wendy's willing to work with the Booths, it's just a few favors she's letting go of on a whim. The Booths are out of touch, thinking they can demand whatever from Wendy. Yet, I didn't expect these deals meant so much to them, enough for them to join forces against me. In the 65th floor penthouse of the hotel, I collapsed to the floor, feeling weak. My phone had already been taken. Rushing into the bathroom, I splashed cold water on myself, trying to cool down the heat surging through me. I shattered a glass on the sink and without hesitation made a cut on my arm. My mind cleared for a moment as I stood in front of the bright mirror, looking disheveled with blood and water mingling. Before that, at the Booth's own daughter's homecoming banquet, they dared to make a move openly. The hotel door swung open, and someone walked in with leisurely footsteps. Leaning against the door frame, I was relieved to see it was Wendy, letting out a breath as I slid to the ground. Before losing consciousness, I heard Wendy kick a chair and shout, "Amy!" When I woke up in the hospital, Wendy was playing on her phone by the bedside. I moved my hand, and she looked over, saying coolly, "You really get outplayed every step. All my teaching over the years went to waste." Not answering her, I grabbed my clothes and got out of bed. "Brian," she spoke with a steady voice, "would it kill you to soften up to me? Just ask, and I'll fix your family's problems." I looked at her. "Wendy, I don't have the energy to play with you. Please stay out of their mess." "Fine," she nodded, "but you'd better not come crawling back to me." Amy, known for her charitable image, had kept it solid, with me being her biggest pawn for years. Now, with evidence in hand, I couldn't destroy them completely but could at least make them suffer. Overnight, scandals about the Booths' past orphan adoptions and Amy's fake charity surfaced, causing their stocks to plummet overnight. Such a small incident, so easily pushed aside, had spiraled out of control by the time I realized they were reaching a critical point, with no one knowing who caused it all. I saw Wendy again at the Wythes banquet. Frank brightened up seeing me and nudged Wendy with an elbow. "Hey, Brian's here. You really got him figured out." They had been betting on whether I'd show up that night. Everyone bet against it except Wendy, who lazily said it was a great chance for me to make up with her after sulking for so long. Wendy glanced at me, sizing me up without moving. After a moment, she came over, her tone a bit detached. "Why are you so late?" "Whatever. Stick with me and don't wander off." I looked at her outstretched hand and calmly shook my head. "I'm not here for you." "Come on, Brian, still messing with me?" She sounded unconvinced. "Without my invite, how would you even get in here?" But she abruptly stopped talking, lips pressed tight, eyes chilly. I turned to see Ruby in a red dress standing behind me, gently looping her arm through mine. Wendy's gaze turned fierce at the sight of her hand. "What brings you here?" Ruby leaned affectionately on my shoulder, ignoring Wendy completely. "Frank, you guys go ahead. Brian and I have to step out for a bit." Mike opened his mouth, looking serious, not daring to meet Wendy's gaze, just nodding aimlessly. Brian. Wendy suddenly spoke with a light chuckle. You're so obedient. I tell you to be with Ruby, and there you go. If I point to Gloria, do you go to her too? Ruby's grip on my hand tightened at Wendy's words. I winced slightly, looking at her. Ruby lowered her head, sounding resigned and joking. Just say what you want when the time comes. Have it your way. I patted her hand reassuringly and held it back. Now I'm beginning to understand why Mike said she was always second tier in relationships. Wendy, I said plainly, don't overestimate yourself. You're not that important. You're no longer that important. So, nothing you do can affect my feelings. Wendy paled for a moment. She wasn't that important anymore. So whatever was happening between Brian and Ruby had nothing to do with her. Frank, struggling for words, awkwardly tried to console her. Well, it's probably a good thing. You've always said she's been clinging to you. Now that she's found someone else, you're free. Don't tell me you're feeling sorry now because someone's competing with you for her? Frank silently added in his mind. Crazy. Wendy glanced at him. Didn't you say Ruby wasn't into Brian types? Frank grudgingly continued. She told me herself. The Wythes would never accept someone like him. Ruby's probably just playing around. If you're really interested, wait for them to break up. Meanwhile, in the Wythes' inner courtyard, Ruby's second sister, Lisa, in a black coat and hair low-tied with a jade pin, walked briskly in high heels, stopping to tell the old man. Grandpa, Ruby brought a young man home. The old man, with a lively spirit, pressing his cane, raised his brows. Ruby? That girl's finally come around? The next morning, my phone rang. Brian, can you come to the hospital? Nina's voice sounded a bit urgent. What happened? Did something happen to you? Not me, it's Wendy. She drank all night and has a stomach problem. They brought her to the hospital. She won't let anyone near, insisting on staying put. Can you please come? She only listens to you when she's sick. Nina, I replied calmly, please don't contact me about her anymore. In fact, don't contact me anymore. No one's going to stay forever. Hope she takes care of herself. Brian, Nina was anxious. After all she's done for you, just give her one last chance. You can't just leave her in the lurch. Wendy lay on the hospital bed, scrolling on her phone, her forehead covered in sweat. When she saw me, she tossed her phone aside, pulling her usual act, leaning her head on my shoulder. Little ingrate, I'm in so much pain. I nudged her head away, my tone flat. Where's your boyfriend? She shrugged, unconcerned. We broke up ages ago. You and Ruby are probably broken up too. You played it big. I concede, okay? Still unfazed and perched atop it all, as if one word of submission from her, and I'd surrender obediently. I looked at her silently for a while and shook my head. Wendy, I really like Ruby. I truly want to be with her. I accept her for who she is, not for the thrill or vengeance. She's remarkable. I wouldn't use her as a tool, especially not for you. I said flatly, it's just not worth it. Wendy stared into my eyes, searching for any sign of deceit. Unfortunately for her, she found none. What she saw in the eyes that were once full of her was now filled with someone else. I'm here for the last time to say goodbye to the past. From now on, your life or death has nothing to do with me. The veins at Wendy's temple throbbed, caught between pain and extreme anger. She likely never believed that someone she once dismissed would walk away without looking back. Brian, her voice was hoarse. After so many years, can you differentiate? Differentiate what? After so many years, can you really tell if your feelings for me were love or gratitude? She sneered. If you really liked me as you claim, why didn't you ever get jealous when I had boyfriends? Whoever was nice to me, you were nice to them. Whoever I liked, you smiled at them. Brian, can you really tell? Her last words were filled with bitterness and irony. No, I shook my head, but that was all my feelings. Through the hardships, I gave you the little I had left. As long as you were good to me, I would always like you. Eventually, I'd understand what it means to love you, but you never gave me the chance. You blocked every path. She wanted me to soften again, to control all of me once more. After I said that, I didn't stick around. I turned and left. Nina stopped me in the hallway. Thanks. I probably won't bother you anymore. She's just been too reliant on you these past years. She'll be fine once she finds someone she likes. Seeing me nod, she smiled. You've been good to her all these years. She helped you back then out of a bet with us. Don't take it to heart. It's all in the past now. Staring at her, I asked, a bet? She scratched her head. Yeah. Didn't Wendy tell you? Don't get mad. Back then, you looked so naive. We made a bet. If Wendy could make you fall for her, we'd do whatever she wanted. The time limit was 3 months. When you didn't say you liked her, we forgot about it. Who knew she'd stick around for 2 years? We even mocked her. Nina, Wendy, in her hospital gown, shouted to interrupt her. Shut up. She clung to the doorframe, looking at me in panic as if someone squeezed her heart, making her tremble. Through the silent, cold hallway, I looked at her. I saw the fearless girl who always stood in front of me. So that's why, at 18, under the fireworks, she recorded my confession with her phone. It was all a game to her. I started laughing. Brian. Wendy rushed to me, cautiously trying to hold my shoulder. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I was a jerk before. Hit me, yell at me, do whatever you want. Don't touch me. I glared up at her defiantly. Wendy, you turned me into a joke. If you'd told me sooner, I wouldn't have hung around so long, watching me circle you like a dog. Did you laugh every night? Brian, you're such a good dog. A throwaway bone gets you all worked up. It wasn't like that. She wanted to explain, but a sudden stomachache made her bend over, unable to hold anything. I didn't spare her another glance and quickly left. Behind me, Nina, knowing she caused trouble, rushed to help Wendy up. Wendy could only grab her and say, "Stop him." When I walked out of the hospital, I seemed to accept it all peacefully. All the moments I considered salvation turned out to be a spur-of-the-moment gamble. But when I saw Ruby, I pressed my lips together, and tears fell. I opened my arms and Ruby gently hugged me. There you go, no one will see you cry now. Brian, Ruby kissed my cheek. If you're uncomfortable, just tell me. I'm here, take your time. I bit my lip and bit hard on her collarbone. Ruby let out a suppressed breath. The next moment, a surge of emotion broke through any barrier. Her hand on my head stayed there until her knuckles turned red. I let out a deep sob, resting my head on her chest, crying uncontrollably. Ruby, Ruby, I called her name incoherently. I couldn't tell if the holes in my heart hurt more or if her efforts did. Her eyes were red at the corners. She whispered through her teeth, "Next time I'll do better." From broad daylight to complete darkness, I was gently placed into a clean, soft bed. A voice murmured, "After all these years, you finally look back at me." Meanwhile, Wendy, unable to contact Brian, sat under his apartment all night in thin clothes. She looked at the window with its briefly lit light at dawn, feeling like gravel grinding painfully through her mind. She climbed up to that floor, knocking hard on the door, worried about disturbing the people inside. Ruby quickly opened the door. Leaning against it in a white t-shirt, bruises visible. Wendy clenched her fists, taking deep breaths, blood trickling where the 4 had been pulled out. Avoiding the marks on Ruby's body, she said harshly, "Tell Brian to come out." Inside, a voice called, "Ruby? Who is it?" You could hear it was hoarse from what had happened earlier. Wendy raised a hand and slapped Ruby. Ruby raised her arm to block Wendy's, closed the door behind her, and agreed with Brian. "It's nothing, just a delivery guy. Go back to sleep." The two of them ended up wrestling, as Wendy, worn out from a sleepless night, was overpowered by Ruby. Ruby pinned Wendy's arm across her neck. Wendy rasped, "Ruby, he's been with me since he was 16. I raised him." Wendy, feverish and confused, pleaded, "Ruby, give Brian back to me. I'll do anything you want." Ruby released her and sent a message to have the security drag her away. She patted Wendy's face. "His eyes were always on you, even when you ignored him. I wanted to slap you then. Did you get close to me for Brian?" Ruby, nonchalant, was caught by surprise. "You figured it out. You're not so dumb after all. I thought of you as a sister." Wendy, burning up, hoped to awaken Ruby's conscience. Of course, Ruby laughed it off, unburdened. Aren't you polite? Proudly, she declared, remember, I'm the woman Brian chose. So only he can order me around, not the other way around. When I opened the door wearing a coat, there were two disheveled people before me. One lying down, one crouching, both covered in scrapes. Ruby, who had been scowling, looked up at me, then down again, adjusted her sleeve to reveal bruises Wendy had left on her arm. The two once high and mighty women now looked like brawling street fighters. Wendy stood up, a flush on her face. She was sick. Her fever always left her red from face to neck, alarmingly so. She pulled a small blue velvet box from her pocket, her trembling fingers opening it to reveal 2 rings. When you were 18, you wished to marry me, so I bought your favorite rings. Brian, let's go back and start over. Okay, those were things I dreamed of before. I imagined countless times her turning back, holding my hand. But why do we always hope shattered mirrors can be whole again? Those things I once desperately wanted. Now, right in front of me, they don't stir a single emotion. With Ruby clinging to me, biting her lip, she stubbornly held on. Brian, don't believe her. People like her sound sweet but never cherish what they have. Don't be fooled. Ruby, Wendy barked, her forehead throbbing. Have some shame. Which is more important, shame or your husband? Ruby retorted with a snort. I swung open the door behind me, pushing Ruby inside. Stay put, wait for me and don't come out, I whispered. I glanced at Wendy, speaking softly. I'll see you out. Wendy, I interrupted, thank you for these years. When Ruby was upset, she'd complain about Wendy in my ear, but eventually, she'd sigh. I still have to thank her for protecting young Brian. Whether genuine or not, without Wendy, I might not have made it out alive from a city high school. Believe it or not, for these past years, I've truly liked you. Not just for gratitude, you were a massive part of my dark teenage years. Nobody doesn't love a godsend, Wendy. Be happy for me. You didn't exhaust my courage to love. That's the biggest out you gave me in the years between us. Wendy's eyes dampened as she unwillingly asked, Brian, am I really that unforgivable? I extended my right hand, slim and pale, with a ring on my 4th finger. See, I gently said, your repentance always comes too late. She bowed her head, tapping the ring with her index finger, giving a forlorn smile. In the past, I'd always trailed behind her, looking up. This time, I watched her retreat. As she stepped past the stairs, it was that summer when she called my name outside the Booth's villa. Brian, come down. Let's watch the sunset. Rushing highways, the sea of blue and red, chasing the sunset, that was young love. In the shadow of the trees, it was that night at 17 when she plunged into the Booth's pool to drag me out, saying she'd face the world for me. Through the noisy crowd at 18 during my coming-of-age party, fireworks, that first sip of alcohol, that first sign of rebellion, at every turn there was Wendy. She once came against the light, and now walks the same way, against the crowd, away from the chasm in my life. Ruby and I planned our wedding for a warm spring day, a $1 million event known throughout the city. Before the wedding, Wendy sent over a package with legal documents from the lawyer. She said very formally, this is Ms. Wendy's wedding gift for you. Ruby truly went out of her way for me, determined everyone understood how much she loved me. I once asked her why she liked me. She asked if I remembered the little girl from my childhood. Of course, I remembered. The one my parents saved from traffickers. We lived in a remote village then. Before sending her to the police, I gave her my favorite toy. Mom told me she was scared of the bad guys, so Brian had to protect her. Ruby said she had later visited that village, but most people were long gone. Looking at her against the light's glow, she was so beautiful, her exquisite features, her high nose bridge, and her charming eyes. She held me tightly. I thought I'd never have a chance. Your love was once so overwhelming and hopeless. Only someone like her, fearless and clueless, could be so bold. Too bad she wouldn't have such luck again. On the day of Brian and Ruby's wedding, Mike took pictures while laughing, then sent them precisely to Wendy. Soon enough, he realized she'd blocked him, unable to send pictures anymore. He laughed even more, knowing Wendy still held hope, always thinking Brian would come back to her. Even with Ruby by his side, Wendy never imagined him marrying someone else. Only by seeing Brian married, Wendy might finally understand what true loss meant. Wendy's car was parked across from the Wythes Hotel where the wedding was. It was dark, the car tucked away, the inside still and cold. She tapped on the driver's seat, her light eyes hidden by night's darkness, saying, "Frank, go take a look for me." Frank hesitated, then asked, "Won't you go see it yourself? At least see him happy." Wendy looked out the window, her mouth pulling slightly. "His happiness has nothing to do with me. How should I feel watching it? Frank, he'll forget me eventually. But I guess I'll never forget. Forget him trailing a step behind. Forget turning around to his capturing smile. Those eyes ever so bright. How did it come to this? She had made mistakes, many forgiven, but for this one, she was left behind. At first, I thought it was just a minor argument, just like so many before. In a few days, he'd softly call me Ruyan. I'd often act indifferently. But soon enough, I'd be happier than anyone, seeking his comfort. Brian, my stomach hurts. His skill for soups was because of her. He only knew how to make this. But this time, the one who always conceded decided to walk away. They reached an end with no path forward. At 16, the sapling she tenaciously raised grew in someone else's heart. How will she ever let this go for the rest of her life?